Hi, this is David Kelley, and this will be the first episode of what I'm going to call X-Wing Mailbag. And in this, I'm going to address comments or questions I see posted on some of my videos that I don't really want to stick in a video in the Becoming Competitive series, but I do kind of want to address. And for this one, the answer to this is not like a one paragraph thing I could just type out real quick or a quick thing. It actually has a little bit to it. And I think this will complement that series a lot because you guys are going to ask some specific questions that I'm starting to realize now. And I want to be able to try to answer those, but I don't want to take away from that series because I want that series to be kind of what it is. So this is just going to be a separate, I can answer question type series and whatnot. So the first one is going to be from Johan, last name that starts with a B because there's not a chance I could ever say that, and I probably mispronounced the first name. However, his question is, for this episode, I have a question about upgrades on Echo. My current list is Vader, Echo, Grand Inquisitor. I've played Echo with Outmaneuver because of 3 reasons. Number 1, I don't plan to be in any arcs because Echo is not as tanky as Whisper, but she can be in more unexpected places on the battlefield. I agree. She fires last in my list. So stripping a focus token at that point will not help. An initiative of 4 could also mean I had to spend the evade prior to her shooting, turning Juke off. And then 3, I originally started playing her because of Republic Jedis, and versus them and other Force users, turning the evade to a focus result will mean that Juke is less impactful. Am I wrong in my analysis? You seem to prefer Juke, as it will trigger more often, but could you elaborate a little on Juke, on Echo versus Outmaneuver, and the usefulness in the current meta? Thank you. You'll notice right off the bat, reading out loud, not my strong suit. We're going to go here. So we're talking about Echo and Juke versus Outmaneuver, and why I think Juke is the definitive upgrade compared to Outmaneuver here. So the first thing is she fires last in your list, so stripping a focus token at that point will not help. I can kind of agree with that sentiment. However, if you look at it from a different perspective, I think it might change your opinion on that a little bit. So you've got Vader, Echo, Grand Inquisitor. Now, my Echo build is passive sensors, fifth brother, Juke. That's the Echo I run. And the reason I run that is I can get my target lock. I have a soft focus that I can mod into a crit, and I've got the Juke. So if Echo's firing last, and I've got passive sensors, my goal is for Echo to shoot at a target that either Vader or the Grand Inquisitor has already shot at, or have both shot at. Now, if I do this correctly with both Echo, with Vader and Grand Inquisitor, like on the initial joust, hopefully Echo's off somewhere doing her own thing, and Vader and Grand Inquisitor are able to all 3 shoot at the same ship. If you engage correctly, what's going to happen is by the time it gets to Echo's shot, if they have a focus, hopefully the Vader or Grand Inquisitor shot have stripped it already. And if they had, awesome. And so if they've stripped that focus, your Juke is just free damage every time they roll an evade. So, and the thing I want to look at here is 2 or more agility ships. Because when we start looking at, Ghosts or Falcons, anything with like 1 or less agility, the Juke versus Outmaneuver really becomes, it's a thing that matters, but it doesn't matter as much because you're basically just dealing damage in those situations. In those situations, it's more about just being in the correct position rather than how much damage is going through because you're going to hit. But when you start talking about the 2 or more agility ships, like we're shooting at a Wedge, we're shooting at 3 agility Interceptor or Jedi, something like that. That's when it really starts mattering. So if you're coordinating your shots, normally that focus is already spent. So we're just going to do a quick, we've got 3 dice. I've got a Force and a target lock. because that's basically what Echo's going to have. I've also got an Evade and a Juke. So I want to turn on all my Echo upgrades. Now, assuming Vader or the Inquisitor shot and made them spend that focus result, let's say we're looking at a 3 agility, whatever ship it is. All right, so they've got 3 agility, no focus. Well, first we're going to turn Juke off. We turn Juke off, they've got 3 agility, no focus, and we've got a basically fully modded shot here. What is our outcome? Well, we're going to look at our expected damage because that's the number that's more meaningful, but we'll look at this too. But we're going to average 1.54 damage per shot. It's pretty good. We're going to deal at least 1 damage 85% of the time, at least 2 damage 53% of the time, and then 16% we do all 3 damage. But this 1.54 is the number that I want to really look at. So now, if we turn Juke on, redo this, we just gain 0.7 damage. Almost an entire damage point. So now, we're dealing 3 damage 46% of the time. That means we're going to be dealing maximum damage a lot. 85% of the time, we're dealing 2 or more damage. 97% we're dealing 1 or more damage. Now, if I turn Juke off and turn Outmaneuver on, we'll just lower the agility by 1. 1.9 damage. Notice how we're doing 0.3 more damage with Juke than with Outmaneuver? It's pretty good. Now, if they've got a focus, Outmaneuver is going to pull ahead. So if they've got focus here, you'll notice 1.4 compared to the 1.5 we were doing without the focus. So when they have a focus, you are going to do more damage with the Outmaneuver. But the reality is, especially with the list you have, they shouldn't have a focus too often when you're shooting at them. So that 0.7 extra damage is a huge amount of extra damage compared to the 0.4 extra. So you're getting almost 50% more value every time you shoot at something without a focus if they've got 3 agility. Now, the other thing to look at, we go back to your question is, and so that's why I like it. And then you've got the force user here, and there's one more point I'm going to get to in a minute, but you've got your force users here. And something that, yes, it's really annoying that you shoot at them, you juke, and then they spend the force and get it right back. However, you have done something there. And what you have done is you've started that drain game of force. So now, every time you shoot at them, they have to use 1 force guaranteed just to negate that juke of yours. Well, one of the big problems with Jedi is they run out of force too quick. Because now, almost every turn, that Jedi is going to want to use a force to reposition. Then he's going to have to force for your juke. Right? So now, if he's going to use a force for anything else, he's out of force on 1 round. So you've now basically gotten one of these Jedi drained. If it's a 3 force Jedi, if it's only a 2 force Jedi, he's instantly drained, which means the next turn, he has to make a conscious decision. Am I going to use my force to reposition, or am I going to use it to defend against Juke? Or am I going to use it to take a focus and not have a focus forced or focus target locked or force target lock shot, something like that. So Juke is really effective in the drain game, because the hardest thing with Jedi is they've got the force and the focus sometimes. They can bounce around and be defensive. If that Juke is going to go off every turn, and with Echo, as long as you're positioning pretty correctly, no ship can escape you. Like, you're the fastest ship in the game, essentially, with the best repositioning. So if you're juking them every round, you're getting that force drain. And as soon as a Jedi runs out of force, they just start taking damage. So I think Juke is excellent against Jedi. It may take a turn to get the force drained, but once it does, they lose that reposition or they just start taking monster damage. Now, the other thing about Echo, and why I like Juke, is, at least for me, Echo is the last ship alive for me a lot. which means I need my Echo to be able to go in that 1v1 duel. So in a 1v1 duel, if I'm going against, say, Wedge or Vader or any other big ace, right? I'm going up against a higher PS ship. Well, when Wedge turns and points at me, I'm just going to use Wedge because it's the easiest example here. Wedge turns and points at me. When he rolls hit, focus, and he's taken the focus action, now Wedge has a truly important choice. Does Wedge spend that focus on offense? Because if he does, he's going to deal damage to me. Guaranteed. I'm only rolling 1 agility, maybe 2 at range 3. So he's dealing damage. But if he does and he doesn't kill me, guess what happens? Anything I roll, he's basically taking. And the reason for this is, and we want to put our opponent in this weird choice. So let's say we're shooting at Wedge, range 2. We're just going to trade shots at range 2. And I'm going to just say we always have max hits because I want to really look at this. So we have max hits 100% of the time. He only rolls 2 agility dice. So if we simulate this, he's going to take 3 damage 40% of the time. So 40% of the time, he's going to roll no evades, or 39%. 85% of the time, or 86% of the time, he's going to roll a single evade. Now what this means is, 86% of the time, if we have Juke, it's going to be effective against a Wedge. So now if I turn Juke on, right now we're doing 2.25 damage on average if I have max hits. If I turn Juke on, it goes up to 2.8. So when we roll 3 hits, Wedge is taking 2 damage guaranteed when he's got no damage always if we get max hits. If we get max hits, he's taking all 3 damage 86% of the time. And the reason for that is the only way he doesn't take all the damage is if he rolls 2 natural evades. And this right here is the power of Juke. Because now when that Wedge shoots at you, he has to make a really tough decision. Do I spend that focus for 1 damage on Echo now? Or do I save it and try not to just take 3 damage myself? And that's a real choice for Wedge. That's a real choice for Wedge. Because if he has the focus, all of a sudden, 1.75. It's a big difference. That's a really big difference. That's an entire point of damage less he's taking. So, in those jousts like that, having the Juke makes those aces really have to make those tough decisions. Do I spend the focus now or do I not? And then the other point I wanted to talk about was, you mentioned in this question, stripping the focus won't matter. Yeah, if you shoot last and they still have the focus, it's not going to help as much. It sucks, but if you're shooting last and you're shooting at, say, a PS3 that hasn't shot yet, and you're able to strip that focus or force that focus spend, that's actually good, though, because they're not modifying their offense now, whether they're shooting at one of your friends or you, so that's good. But you mentioned spending your evade in here somewhere. I'm not going to read through it again. But you mentioned sometimes you spend your evade. When I play Echo, the only time I will ever spend my evade is essentially to avoid death. So if we're early in the game and somebody shoots at me 3 hits and I roll evade blank, I'm not spending that evade. I'm just going to say I take the hits. I take 2 damage, period. I'm not spending the evade there. Because Echo's greatest survival instinct is the ability to decloak and get wherever she needs to. So very rarely am I ever spending the evade. So that's not really an issue to me. I hope this helped answer that question. It was a pretty in-depth question, but yeah. Thanks for asking. Have a good one.